Thank you. What an amazing place to talk about hydronics. I was hoping for a full stadium, but hey, thanks for being here with me today. My name is Alessandro Arnulfo, and is it better? I would be moving around, I cannot stay. My name is Alessandro Arnulfo, and does it work? Yes. Okay. And I'm one of the founders of Messana Hydronic Technologies. Something is not right. No.
That's the wrong one. I hit this button before.
You talk, I'll get it again. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Wrong presentation. Okay, Messana Hydronic Technology is a worldwide leader in hydronic technologies. We have been a pioneer in the radiant cooling technology, and that's what was the driven at the beginning. So we've been doing radiant cooling for a very long time, and we are the manufacturer of three line of product that I would say those are the three fundamental ingredients for successfully doing radiant cooling, which are radiant ceiling panel with the brand Raymagic. Then we developed and we manufacture a climate control system that is called M-Control. And then the third ingredient is air treatment units for controlling the air quality and the humidity in the building, in the house. We have been doing radiant cooling for over 31 years, and we have been serving both the residential market and the commercial market, most likely high-end residential. We are rebranding our company into Messana Hydronic Technology, and the new website will be messana.tech. A little bit of history about Messana. So we started in the early 90s doing the first experiment for radiant cooling, and back in the 90s it was just radiant floor. We soon understand two things. One, you need some control system to do radiant cooling, and two, we decided to turn things around, upside down, and we decided to invest on the ceiling. And we, in the late 90s, we had the first radiant ceiling panel, which was a gypsum panel, a gypsum technology. Back on those days, was just a gypsum, a 1-inch gypsum panel that was routed, and then pipe were lie down in the gypsum. About 10 years later, we developed a new panel. We call it the release number 2, which is Raymagic, and so it's more of an industrial panel this time. It's a sandwich, EPS layer, and then aluminum pipes and gypsum. In 2011, I founded Messana in the US. As you can notice from my accent, I'm Italian, but I'm living in the US, in California. And in 2016, we created a new patent for the radiant panel, and it's a joining technology, so allows you to join panel in a very quick and easy way. And as I mentioned, we are rebranding ourselves in Messana Hydronic Technology. The reason behind that is that we've been known for as the pioneer of radiant cooling. However, by developing this product, we realize now that we have a solution that is just more wide than only radiant cooling. So, like for example, control platform allow you to use radiant floor in heating, fan coils, air treatment unit, and so on. Here is a picture of our production plant in Italy. As I said, we do both commercial and residential. In the US, at the moment, I would say 80% of the market is residential market, high-end, I would say very high-end residential. And in Europe, especially in Italy, the market is more mature. There is more light commercial, so it might be like 50-50, 60-50, 60-40. Here is a map of our presence in the world, and I just want to point it out here. In New Zealand, we are working with Waterware, and here is where my company is located, and here in Italy, close to Venice. This is where we have RAM, which is Radiant Architecture Manufacturing, and this is where we fabricate our radiant panel and the control and the air units. Okay, so I think one of the most interesting question that I'm asked is always, what is radiant cooling? And it would be much easier to tell you what radiant heat is, because radiant heat is actually related to a physical phenomenon, which is heat transfer. So basically, every time that you have two objects, a hot object and a colder object, there is heat transferring from the hot object toward the cool. So we also say heat sinks cool. And so this is energy, and this is radiant heating. So what is radiant cooling? There is no cooling energy transferring, but I like to say radiant cooling is basically negative radiant heating. So if you look at the two bodies from the warmer one, the warm body will radiate energy, and so its temperature goes down. So radiant cooling could be defined as negative radiant heating, but when we say radiant cooling, we refer to the technology to condition a space by lowering the surface, ceiling or floor or both, and extracting heating. So in this picture, as you can see on the ceiling, there is a hidden radiant panel. It's a Raymagic panel that is covered by gypsum, and there is a serpentine, and there is cold water flowing through the ceiling, and as a result, the ceiling temperature will be cooler than the rest of the room. I would say around 15 degrees, 13, 17 Celsius. I've been in the US for a long time, and now my brain goes in Fahrenheit. So as an effect of having this surface cool, every object that is in the room will release heat, will radiate heat. So this screen will radiate heat over the ceiling. Those apples radiate heat over the ceiling. Same will do the floor, a lot from the window. This young lady will radiate energy to the ceiling, and so will do the light. So everything in the room that has a higher temperature than the ceiling will radiate heat, and so will lower its temperature. You can see also there are two arrows here from the ceiling pointing down. What do they represent is it's a convective cooling effect. So basically, when we are close to the ceiling, there will be like a layer of air that in touch with the cold ceiling will get cooler, and then cool air will move down. And so in a radiant ceiling system, typically there is like a 30% convective integration, convective phenomenon, convective cooling that will help in cooling the environment. What happens if we change the temperature in the pipe? So we switch the heat pump from cooling to heating, and then we run some hot water in the ceiling. We make the ceiling, let's say, 30 degrees. And so now we have radiant heating. So the ceiling is warmer than the screen, so there is energy now flowing down from the ceiling to the floor. You can see that there is still energy from this young lady going up to the ceiling. Why is that? Well, the response is simple. If the ceiling is 30 degrees, the human body is 37, 36, 37. So the human body is still hotter than the radiant ceiling. So it's still radiation from our body going to the ceiling. Same thing will be with the radiant floor. So when we do radiant heating on the human body, is basically acting as less energy released in our body, and that makes us feel like it's warm. But the reality is that we are still radiating energy. So this slide asks me to say that heat does go down. Many of us have been told that heat rises. It's a myth, it's not true. It's hot air rises. Radiant really doesn't care about gravity. The sun is on the sky and radiate and hit the earth. So radiation is doesn't care about the distance, and what is going up, it's hot air. So in radiant, doing it on the ceiling, doing on the floor, on the wall, it really doesn't matter because it's a radiation system. And here we reverted back the heat pump into cooling, and so now the radiation is going the other way around toward the ceiling. In this slide, we are comparing using a radiant ceiling as a radiant terminal. We are comparing heating versus cooling. As I mentioned before, when we do radiant ceiling, there is in cooling there is always like a 30–40% component that is a convection, so cold air flowing down, and that helps the ceiling to absorb the heat, and so makes the ceiling more efficient. In heating, that doesn't happen, and the reason behind that is simple, because if the ceiling is hot, hot air at the top of the room, close to the ceiling, get hot and cannot go further up. So there is no air movement when we do a heating system on the ceiling. So it's really a 100% radiation system. Okay, so this is the first line of product that I mentioned at the beginning. So the first ingredient for the radiant cooling recipe, which is radiant panel. So we have been developing radiant gypsum technology for more than 30 years now, and we have 3 patents. One is expired. There is still a patent that is for modular prefabrication with integrated pipe and headers. So in our panel, the headers, supply and return, are embedded into the panel. And the second patent is for quick coupling sliding joints that makes the installation very quick and easy. So the panel that we are selling here in New Zealand is called NK. It stands for naked. Naked because the original panel comes with a gypsum already on top, but for a different reason we decided to go naked. And we have 2 different sizes. So there is the 60x240 and 60x120. And so the panel is made of there is this white EPS, pre-formed EPS, and that acts as a back insulation. And the EPS, it's about 4 centimeters. And on top of the EPS, we put the aluminum heat transfer plates. And those plates have like a omega shape where we insert the pipe. So there are 2 serpentine in this panel, which is the first one, it's this one that goes in and out through these 3-way fittings, and the second serpentine is this one. And inside the panel are embedded the supply line that goes all the way down here and the return line. The line inside are 5/8 packs, 60 millimeter packs. And then part of the technology and the patent is these three-way fittings. The smaller size, 60 by 120, only have one serpentine. To give you an idea of performance, cooling capacity and heating capacity, let's say that maximum with this panel we can get close to 100 watts per square meter with the entering fluid temperature of 8 degrees. I would say typical around 60, 70 watts per square meter, and this is with about 12 degrees water temperature entering into the panel. And to give you an idea, when you cover the panel with the drywall, like a 30 millimeter gypsum board, the temperature on the drywall will be about 5 degrees above. So if we put 12 degrees, we will probably reach like 17 degrees, more or less. In heating, there are not limitations, meaning that we can go really high temperature, and with 54 degrees, we can reach up to 60 watts per square meter. Regularly, we will go low temperature to optimize the performance of the heat pump. So with 38 degrees, we can still get 75 watts per active surface with a 21 room temperature. This is a 3D rendering of how the panel looks like during the installation. As you can see, we are using metal head channels that are spaced 60 centimeter of center, and this allows us to skip light, sprinklers, speakers, and we typically cover, let's say, from 60 to 80% of the ceiling. And that allows us to have plenty space for dealing with any ceiling fixtures. In this case, we have two line of panel. This one here is a 120 by 240, and this is the small size. So it's 1.5 and 1.5, and then you can see there are supply and return. Here is a T. Supply and return, and then with these two pipes we go all the way to the manifold. And in this kind of installation it's very simple because the system is self-balancing, and you can attach up to 12 panels and then go to the manifold. So here we can do another line of panels, like 1-2 lines of panel, all T, and then all the way to the manifold. These are a few pictures of a panel being installed. Here they are pushing the panel together, so the panel will butt and then you push them in. There is like an adapter. It's like a short black piece, sort of a piece of pipe that goes in between the two panels and then will be connecting the two together. And on the other extremity, you will be using a cup, which is closing the three-way fitting. So very simple to install. If needed, you can cut up to 7.5 centimeters hole in the panel to accommodate sprinklers or pipe or even LED lights. There are many lights now that can actually be fit in between the serpentine. Here are some infrared image. On the left, this is a house where the ceiling was covered by wood. Not my favorite, but yes, you can put wood instead of gypsum. In this case, actually, the ceiling was performing pretty well, and you can see here in the blue color there is the cooling panel. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line of panels. In this picture here, we see the radiant panel exposed in heating, and this one also it's a picture of a corridor with a radiant panel in heating. Here is a series of panels that we develop more for light commercial applications. So these are suspended ceiling grid system. Those are metal panels, very high performance panel, and those are made with a heat exchanger that is in brass. So it's a half-inch brass that is pressed and then is glued to the panel with carbon glue, and then is covered. Those panels are have a microforation for acoustical reasons, and then there is a acoustical fleece, and then the heat exchanger, and then the panel are covered with an insulation, typically rock wool insulation. This panel can also be hanging on the ceiling, like in an island, like in an office space. You can have different island in an open ceiling. This is another commercial application panel. This will be actually a tile that would allow us to retrofit the ceiling that we have here. And so basically those panels will be 60 by 60. We could replace those tile with this panel. The panel also have acoustical perforation, and again, this is the same technology, gypsum tile, serpentine, and then there is a back insulation pad. Good product for light commercial retrofit. Okay, so we talked about panel. Now the second ingredient for radiant cooling. Very fundamental. When you want to do radiant cooling, you need to have a control system, and this is for us our third generation of control. This is a complete platform for hydronic control. So basically, radiant floor, radiant ceiling, radiant radiators, everything that is hydronic can be controlled with this platform. And there is a web app, and so every installation will be available remotely, and you can also control the system and do graph and do remote assistance during the installation, during the startup, and so on. Very powerful. So to create a control platform to control the climate in a high-end home, we needed a room comfort sensor. And again, this is the third release of a room comfort sensor that we designed, and we decided to design it ourselves because we really needed to capture a few things in the room that other sensors were not capable of doing. And so this sensor is almost invisible. It's like a circle attached to the ceiling and to the wall. This sensor has three different sensors inside. And so one is to measure the operative temperature, and the operative temperature is the closest temperature that our body will measure. So we have a temperature sensor in our skin, and so we don't care much about what our body doesn't feel much what the air temperature is, but we care more about the mean radiant temperature. Like imagine to be close to a window, and if there is the sun and there is radiation, you feel it right away, even if the air is still cold. So the operative temperature is made with this metal ring. The metal ring has a capsule, and inside this capsule there is a temperature sensor that is immersed into a conductive paste. And basically this sensor mimic the human skin. To do radiant cooling is important to be able to evaluate the dew point temperature in a very accurate way. And to do that, we have another sensor that measures two things: the air temperature and the air humidity. So this part of the sensor here up is the one that will be sticking out from the wall. All the rest will be inside the wall. And you see there is this opening, the air flow here, and then the dew point temperature, capture the air and measure the air temperature, the humidity, and evaluate the dew point. Military grade sensor inside. The other sensor, the third one, is to measure the VOC, volatic compound, and we use that to measure the quality of the air, and that will help us to control the mechanical ventilation and the humidity. All these sensors are 24 VDC, low EMC emission, and they are connected in a daisy chain through a bus. It's a RS485. It's a Modbus connection. And the lifetime of the sensor is about 10 years without any calibration. How do we install the sensor? So the sensor has this very cool technology. It's called O-in, O for the shape, the round shape. And basically, you make a hole in the gypsum, and then this adapter sleeve is actually attached to this insertion tool, and then you screw this sleeve, this shroud into the gypsum. And then you can slide in the sense, and you see there is a rubber ring here that will actually hold the sensor in place. However, during construction, you prepare everything, but you don't want to put the sensor until the very end. And so there is this mudding and painting cap that has integrated a plug connector. So you do all your wiring, you put the plug, you attach the plug in the mudding plug, and then you plug it, and then until the end you won't remove it. Here are a few examples of the installation. This is a sensor installed into a shower. Typically we put the sensor in every single room, including bathroom. This is a living room and like a walk-in closet. Okay, so now we have the sensor in place, and we have all this information. Every single room, we know what is the set point, what is the humidity, what is the actual temperature, and so we needed a brain to elaborate all this information. And so this is the approach that we have on the control. Is basically a system approach. So it's not like a thermostat that look whatever is happening in this room and dictate the heat pump what to do. And so it's more like a system approach. It's a fully scalable platform, and basically it's based on this module that is called the M-Box. And in particular, here in New Zealand, we are exporting these two black box. It's part of the Black series, and it's a one-box solution. So all you need is either the M-Box 5 or the M-Box 10. Those two boxes will come with an interactive wizard. So to program the box, basically you will go through a form, like a wizard. How many rooms, name of the rooms, do you have ceiling, do you do cooling, heating, fan coils? So a sort of a questionnaire, and at the end of the configuration wizard, the system will spit out, will configure the box for you, and will spit out like a wiring diagram, a basic wiring diagram. Here is how the box looks inside, and so this is it's a mini PC. It's a computer, so it's a Linux-based platform, and it's software, and it's all components are all industrial grade components. And here are all the so this is an input-output programmable device and power supply, and here are all the input So all DIN bar terminals. And the difference between the MBox 5 and 10 is basically 5 zone versus 10 zones, but in particularly I want to point out that on the MBox 5 there is no domestic hot water, while if we go on the MBox 10, so we will also have additional output for controlling the domestic hot water. And basically, again, hydronic terminal, floor, ceiling, fan coils, and then you can have up to 2 different temperatures. So basically, you can have a temperature for the radiant floor and a different temperature for the radiant ceiling. Here is how the input-output contacts will look like. And here are all